I've been playing video games for as long as I can remember. My first console was the Nintendo GameCube, and I remember playing popular games like Mario Sunshine and Mario Kart Double Dash, and also the very beginning of Ocarina of Time. I wasn't smart enough to make it any further. But there are also a ton of games that I played that were less popular, and games that I've completely forgotten about as time went on. With games nowadays costing over $100 and releasing as borderline unplayable, it's got me wondering what ended up happening to some of those games I played as a kid. Were they as good as I remembered, or am I just being nostalgic? Let's not waste any more time, and let's just get right into it. In case the name Arcane Addict wasn't obvious enough, I've always been huge on magic. Books, games, movies, doesn't matter. I don't care about a guy with a bow and arrow, I can do that in real life if I wanted to. But firing beams of arcane energy, shooting fire, calling down lightning, now that is interesting. Wizard, warlock, necromancer, summoner, doesn't matter. You give me the option to pick a magic-based DPS role in any game and I am taking it without hesitation. And that's why one of the games I gravitated toward as a kid was Wizard 101. I remember playing it at my grandma's house on her dial-up internet, on her Windows Vista desktop, slowly watching that loading bar fill before seeing that super memorable title screen show up. I'm putting this segment earlier in the video because I know this game isn't really forgotten per se, and I know there's still a decent number of people who do play it. Even in the comments, my frames were dropping because of how many people were there at any given point. The game starts off with you having to complete a little quiz to determine which school of magic you'd fall into. While in recent years, I've tended to gravitate towards lightning magic because it's cool as hell, I decided to go with younger me's decision to join the School of Fire. The game starts out as a pretty typical MMORPG. You run around, complete quests, level up, get new gear, unlock new spells. But one of the things that I remember standing out to me at the time was the battle system. Once a monster notices you and starts a battle, the game switches to a turn-based format where spells are cast using spell cards in your deck. As you level, you get new spells from your school of magic for free, but another thing that I thought was cool was that you could spend training points to learn spells from other schools of magic, meaning you weren't stuck with just fire magic or just storm magic. The gameplay is pretty simple, and more than a few areas are locked behind a paywall, requiring you to either buy one area permanently using a premium in-game currency, or pay for a subscription that unlocks all areas for as long as you're subscribed. It looks like there was an event going on that temporarily unlocked all areas regardless of whether you had a membership or not, which was pretty handy, but I don't remember that ever happening when I played the game as a kid. But overall, my brother and I had a ton of fun playing this as kids, and we still occasionally go back to it to this day for nostalgia's sake. Growing up, I was always a big fan of MMORPGs, and seeing as how I couldn't really afford World of Warcraft's $20 monthly subscription when I was 11 years old, I had to make do with other MMOs. One of those games was Grand Fantasia. I always kinda saw the game as World of Warcraft, but anime. I have yet to meet a single person who has ever heard of it. It's obscure enough to the point where I can't Google anything from the game if I get stuck, because it usually doesn't show up in the search results. It's a pretty standard MMO. One of the only things that stands out to me when compared to the other games is that you don't even start out as your selected class. If you choose to play as a wizard in the character creation screen, you start out as a novice until level 5, where you become a spellcaster, then a mage at level 15, and finally a wizard at level 30. After that, you can further upgrade your class to Archmage, Avatar, and finally Warlock, but it feels like you're actually training to become your selected class. And with a sizable list of classes you can choose from, you can sink a decent bit of time into the game creating new characters to try them all out. Another mechanic I thought was interesting that I haven't seen too much in other games is the sprite system. When you create a new character, you choose the type of sprite you would like to start with. Your sprite typically has 2 gathering abilities and 1 crafting ability, though there are ones that kind of break that rule if you really wanted to. The crafting skill is pretty useful because you can get a sprite that crafts swords for your melee-based class or a bow for your archer-type class. You can have up to 3 sprites at once, so you can mix and match sprites as you need them, which I thought was pretty cool. You can also have your sprite follow you around the world and auto pick up any loot that drops from enemies, which is a pretty cool feature in my opinion. Going back to the game, they've added a bunch of things that help you speedrun getting to level 40, which was helpful for the sake of getting footage for this video, but I made it to level 40 in around 3 hours of playing. Maybe it's just me, but I don't really see the point in playing if you're going to essentially skip the first 40 levels of the game. I'd much rather the satisfaction of working to get all the new skills. They've also removed something from the game, namely all of the players. This game is empty now. I don't think I encountered a single player while getting footage for this game. I usually play either alone or just with my brother, so I don't really need other players, but it does kind of take the MMO part out of the MMORPG. All in all, the game is pretty much exactly like I remember it when I was a kid. It's simple, it's obscure, I'm only 40% sure it's not secretly malware, but it's an important game from my childhood. Growing up in the early 2000s, I was in the prime era of the Disney Pixar 3D animated movies. WALL-E, Ratatouille, Finding Nemo, and one of the ones that stood on the top was Disney and Pixar's Cars. Brother, the opening scene of Lightning McQueen paired with Sheryl Crow's Real Gone playing is one of the greatest scenes in the history of film. And since this isn't a video on my favorite childhood movies, though that's not a bad idea, the subject of this segment is the Cars video game for the Nintendo GameCube. And a few other consoles, I guess. It's a pretty simple game. You play as Lightning McQueen and you compete in a bunch of different races. There are races around Radiator Springs, there are Piston Cup races, there are multiple mini games, and a bunch of new areas you can unlock to explore, which my 5-year-old brain apparently never figured out because I am only just now learning that there are new areas to unlock. Something I never realized was as cool as it was at the time was the characters in the game being voiced by their original voice actors from the movies. You've got such iconic Lightning McQueen catchphrases like "I love being me" and or whatever this sound is. All in all, exactly as I remember it as a kid, great game. Do you get it? All in all, like the fuel from the second Cars movie? No? I'm sorry. On the topic of classic kids movies, another game I played a lot as a kid was Toy Story 3. As I'm sure you could have guessed, it's based on the final movie from the Toy Story trilogy. Yep, there are no other movies. Thank God the story ended after the third movie with that perfect ending, and they never made another Toy Story movie ever again. The story follows that of the movie, and it's honestly not very long. It only has around 7 or 8 levels. You start out the game with the train scene from the movie before moving on to a scene where you play as Buzz Lightyear from the Buzz Lightyear video game that they show in Toy Story 2. Also, there's a level where you play in Andy's room that I forgot to mention. Oops. But the third level takes place at the Sunnyside Daycare, and this is the level my brother and I remember the most. We spent hours playing on this level. The story of the level itself isn't very special. You start in the daycare and just have to play 3 mini games, and the level's pretty much done from there. But the level itself is actually pretty big. Unlike the other levels where you go through a linear path from point A to B to reach the end, this level is completely different. You can just wander around the daycare and kind of do whatever. We didn't even do the mini games you were supposed to play to beat the level. We would just take turns playing hide and seek throughout the level, as well as a game we called Table Wars. Table Wars effectively involved us going onto these tables right here and just trying to make it so the other person fell off the table. We spent so much time doing this, and we even moved on to a point where we would do it on the light fixtures above because they were way smaller. See, I'm the best. I am the champ. No!
Oh, that's the second time I've just jumped off.
Oh, I've got 2 points already. You suck.
Bro.
Whoa, you suck so bad. I told you what I meant to do. No.
Why do you suck, Brayden? Ah!
I'm letting you in, actually. Oh my god, I saved myself. I'm the best. I am the Table Wars champ. Oh shit.
Actually, I just dived off so I could save you. Bro, I wasn't even up there. Stop.
No. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. You'll never find me. Hey, this is fun.
You're not even doing anything. Shut up.
Don't go over there. That's not me.
That's not me, guys. That's not. Wait.
It's a Mexican.
Can I even jump that far? You've been jumping that far, right?
Yeah! No. No,
I feel like it has less distance up here.
yes! Oh my god. Okay, well, I fell, but I beat you. I am the true champ. Stop it! That's enough! We're done!
No, wait.
You're just in. If you have someone to play this game with and you haven't done it before, I highly recommend going into the Sunnyside daycare level and just trying to play Table Wars. It's genuinely so much fun. The other levels in the game aren't really anything special. I don't have too much to say about them other than the level that takes place just after the daycare level was so hard, I genuinely could not beat it as a kid. But there is one more thing you can do in the game, the single player game mode, Woody's Roundup. The Woody's Roundup game mode has you going around completing quests for these guys while listening to some of the more memorable Toy Story 2 tracks. You can collect capsules to unlock outfits for the townspeople as well as new customization options for the buildings in the town. I genuinely got so much entertainment out of this game mode. I planned to play for around 20 minutes just to get the footage, but I ended up playing for well over an hour. There's just something about running around and collecting outfits for these tiny little guys that's just the most entertaining thing ever. And that's about all I have for this video. Let me know in the comments which games you played as a kid. There are a few games that I was going to include on this list, like Mini Ninjas and Kingdom of Keflings, both for the Xbox 360, but I couldn't get either of them to work. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like and maybe even subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. And if you just can't wait for another video, I've got 2 videos for you to watch right here. The top 10 soundtracks in video games and cool Super Mario ROM hacks. That's all from me for today, so until next time, farewell.